We'll call the meeting to order. On the agenda, anybody here for a public forum?
That's me.
Anybody else want to talk? All right.
That is I should say. I find it absolutely disconnecting that the powers that be appear to have no regard for or concern of history, tradition, exceptions to rules, and moratoriums. As I told you before, my parents bought this home in 1941. I have kept the flame burning all that time since my parents passed away in 1963 and 1964. That's 60 years ago. It has not always been easy, especially while I was pursuing my bachelor's, my master's, my PhD, and teaching university for 2 years. But I did keep things alive here in Harmony. We returned in 1973 and have lived there ever since. That's 50 years ago. We are very annoyed at these attacks and threats on our domicile to the bottom of our souls. And I mean that sincerely. Why now? Why here? Are these changes being made, especially after all of these years? Especially on property where there's no roads, there's no sewer, there's no water, there's no curb and gutter. It's basically an open field. I feel that it could very well be the very first move toward acquisition.
Do you have any particular requests?
There's no need to make any change.
Okay.
I mean, why now? Why here?
Well, most of this happened last year.
Well, whenever it happened.
Good.
But I wasn't able to talk here last year for the reasons I gave you in the first meeting, because you get I got them the night before this year, and I went through them and I saw them. The assessor told me I wasn't able to do anything last year because I missed this meeting. I went to the county board place, but couldn't do anything there.
So when you say it's a tax on your domicile, what do you mean by that? What's being attacked?
My domicile is this property. We
Mhm.
live there. My wife has used it as a garden.
I think it happens to a lot of people when they have properties on the edge of a town. As the town is growing a little bit in developments and such, that property becomes more valuable. And I think from the looks of it, you would have been paying more all along, but they had it improperly listed as homestead. And they don't allow you to homestead that big of an area. Farmers can't do it. And neither can residents. Does that make sense?
How would you feel if this were happening to you?
It's happened to me. I don't have that many lots, but mine have gone up. It's just like this.
That isn't what I mean. I mean, changing it to residential lots.
How would you feel if that were happening to you?
Well, it looks to me, Alan, that there's only 3 that changed from year 22 to 23. All of them were classified as residential homestead according to what we were provided by the assessor's office. And those 3 particular lots were changed from resident homestead to resident non-homestead. And I guess that's my question to the assessor's office, is why the change in those particular 3 lots
With the residential homestead,
versus non-homestead.
with the residential homestead, you typically will see the property being used in conjunction with the primary homestead. Like, if they have a garden on the contiguous lot or something like that, then you see that linked up and basically combining the one homestead. With Allen's properties, there's a number of those parcels that were not felt to be, part of that, or part of that base homestead, I would say. So, and in reality, the way homestead is calculated on residential properties is you take that homestead market value exclusion, that's the primary benefit associated with homesteading the property. As the value increases above $76,000 in value, the homestead market value exclusion is reduced. So, as more and more property is linked up to the base homestead, is causing the homestead market value to be reduced. So there is some benefits to look at in that scenario, but as far as the valuation, Alan references lots. Basically, our job as appraisers is to value property according to its highest and best use, how it's most likely to be marketed. I think I've used the example from the city of Jackson a couple times where I right on 990 as you drive by Jackson, that's where I came from. There's an industrial park on the south side of the road. There's industrial lot, big cornfield, 12 acres, industrial lot. Well, that cornfield is zoned industrial, and the owner of it, even admitted that if they were to sell that field, they obviously weren't going to market it as an agricultural property. They were going to market it as industrial, because that is what's going to yield the highest return on that property. Well, it's the same thing with Allen's lots, that when my appraisers went through and looked at the properties, a number of those lots were in a situation where they could be marketed as buildable lots, and that's how we value them. Now, as Justin pointed out in his presentation, there were some lots that were considered unbuildable, or I think there was limited access.
No utility available to the lots.
Where the appraiser did apply a pretty healthy reduction to the valuation of those lots to reflect the value losses. So,
So if there's limited utility access, why would they be changed to residential if they're not going to be?
So they were
Accessible.
previously classified as a residential homestead. So all of the lots were previously looked at as classified as a residential lot. The change took place when we came through and observed improvements versus unimproved lots. And the classification changed from a residential homesteaded lot to a unimproved residential lot. So they've continually been classified as residential lots. The only difference is there's one parcel, 15038500, which is the last one on the last page of the presentation on the bottom of the spreadsheet, that is actually zoned C1 commercial, but is being classified according to its use, which is that residential unimproved, meaning it does not have a structure to improve the property. The only recommended change for the along all of the parcels is to 150227,000, and that would be to recommend to change that classification from unimproved res to residential non-homestead as it is improved with a building.
So that's why there's the difference in parcel 150378 and parcel 150379 on their classifications, is because there's a building on it.
Correct.
Okay.
On those two lots, there's 378 does have a building
Mhm.
on it, so that's why it was changed to that residential non-homestead, because it is improved with the building.
Okay.
And then that 379 is unimproved, so.
Is a bunch of this being farmed? Is that a consideration? Is this a lot higher than?
Really, it isn't enough farming to be classified as agricultural.
Right.
And it's being farmed. The other question I have is, I had horses. My daughter would ride the horses around the lot. So, I know, I don't need to have Homestead explain to me. I didn't just get off the apple cart this morning. The point is, when she was using that, and we were using it for horses, and riding that lot, wasn't it contiguous with my home? And certainly the gardens were. So I don't know why now, all of a sudden, they're changing. It's very, very upsetting. I don't understand. Is there someone behind this, pushing? I have no idea. I do not believe in coincidences. There could be very well something happening here that we will never have an explanation.
I guess I'd respond to that with the explanation for how we classified the properties and the change that did take place was due to our observation on the property at that time. It's part of the expectation of our job as an appraiser is to make a opinion of value and an opinion of, well, classify according to use. And it was observed during the field observation that the use of the property was residential unimproved. That's where the classification change came from.
I guess my
And that's-
question, sorry, no, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
And that's, we take that into every single assessment that we do complete, is looking at the property at what its highest and best use is, and what its current use is, and classify it to.
So you truly do not believe in any history? You do not believe in any special use? You do not believe in any moratorium? Is that correct?
We look at Minnesota statute, it's how you administer. You know, my appraisers look at how the property can use as a section on the associated assessment, and that's how they classify it, because that's what's advised in statute, or actually that's what's dictated in statute. And then they will value according to the highest and best use, because that's how they're directed to administer the office. So, while we look at history, development, understanding, our evaluation and classification are based on what's happening right now.
So then my question, I guess, is prior to this, it just went going the same way till now, right? I mean, every time we evaluated the property, it was what it was until this year, or last year, so it changed it.
The last, yeah, in 2023, is when that change was implemented, and that was after your reassessment done by the appraisal staff.
So why wasn't there a change, say, 10 years ago or 5 years ago?
Probably, I don't know, I would be speaking for my predecessors. Why they chose to administer it the way they did, I can't speak for that. But I've made it clear, both, in my presentation I provided you guys 2 weeks ago, is that, the staff was overwhelmed with the amount of properties that they had to view, so the depth that they were able to dive into some of these was probably limited, because they were, as I said, they were taking the resources and applying it to areas that required attention rather than some of these other areas. That's the best answer I can give you. I really can't speak for it.
Is that the horse barn that's still in the homestead property, not listed on any of these?
Correct.
Correct. The homestead property wasn't listed as an appealed property.
Okay. So are we able to, like, declare that property in addition to his homestead should be homestead also? Or contiguous or part of his homestead?
You guys can make that determination.
Because I've drove by there a long time, and they've always used the 15.372 on the first page. That's always, he's always kept that. I mean, they have kind of wild grass in there, but it's like little hiking trails, and he's got the brick wall along there. Seems like that would be part of the homestead, unless homestead can't be that large. Is it- Homestead can be that large.
There's no definition on residential homestead, the limit that I can think off the top of my head. On agricultural homestead, you have a value here that is, the one thing that I would caution against is John's 201, right? Oh, I don't think that's, okay. This is the one. That's the shed.
So what if he combined these into one parcel? There's a process to do that, obviously. What would that make it all residential homestead? And then, of course, there would be an evaluation attached to that you guys would have to make.
With the 150225,000, it says south side of the lot is considered not buildable due to drainage.
Yes.
Does that still then leave part of that lot determined to be left residential because you could have a lot on it? Or
The
why
north
would,
side of it on, across, Center Street,
yeah,
to the north of, Center Street,
that would be,
it would still be.
Possibly
it is
residential.
It's zoned as R1 residential, and it is being classified as unapproved residential.
There are a number of properties that are residential, even though they can't be built on.
Right.
With the steepest reduction is applied to that parcel, the 150225,000. The price per square foot on that lot is coming somewhere near 6 cents a square foot.
yeah.
As you can see on lots of all of our sales data, just support a price per square foot on the bottom sale on parcel 1500800020, which is considered not buildable according to the ordinance. It's under 6,000 square feet, and that brought 77 cents a square foot. And I also have a sale of an unimproved lot in Canton, without curb and gutter at about 96 cents a square foot. Supporting, that even though it may not be buildable and it may not be improved, that there's still value supportive of above what we're drastically above what we're valuing it at.
And I believe you mentioned that agricultural is determined to be 10 acres or greater, correct?
10 acres in production.
In production. When did that change?
It's been like that for a
Well-
long time. So that's the reason why his property is classified agricultural.
Is there ever run-ins with people actually using land for agriculture that are less than 10 acres?
There are provisions in statute that call for intensive or exclusive use. I don't really see either of those provisions being applicable in this situation.
What, yeah, I guess what are the other examples then, or why would this be different from other agricultural uses that are less than 10 acres?
Well, when I look at, well, we'll just go with the interpretation of statute that, exclusive means border to border, that it's all ag, all farm. You can't have a house, you can't have any non-tillable that we used to, and so on and so forth. Intensive, that's something where there is some gray area in the statute, and that's a route that we tried to provide some definition to. It's basically, when I think of intensive, I think of large grading setup, large storage capacity, and machinery implement that we want to do it. But what we developed in Jackson, which I've brought over here, is to use basically income capabilities of as storage to identify, basically a formula relative to the median, household income in Fillmore County to, define what is intensive versus what's not. I haven't looked at that spreadsheet in a little while, so but it's a tool that, one of my appraisers in Jackson developed that, as we went through and beta tested it on a number of parcels, that provided some pretty clear definitions and, pretty comfortable administering it in that manner. We did have the Department of Revenue review that spreadsheet, and while they couldn't give a formal stamp of approval on it because they can only interpret statute, and they said that as long as it's applied consistently across the county, that it's really avenue to pursue providing definition.
Okay. And Alan, though, the agriculture that you do have is typically field corn or soybeans? Or is it something else?
Field corn, and sometimes these switches take a
Okay,
It's currently, I didn't ask them what it was, probably corn.
okay.
I don't think it's ever been so.
Okay.
If we change those classifications all to residential homestead, would that change back each year? That you guys assess that we'd have to go through this process, or?
Greatly, the majority of the time, the board makes a change. If we don't have something substantiated, I would say absolutely to change back. In this scenario, while let's just put it this way, I do feel that there's enough gray in this scenario that it would be something that I would just leave. So.
I look at it, I see some agricultural use on there, but that can happen a lot of time on the outskirts of town, and I think those are still considered residential. But I'm feeling like, I wanna see the, 37,2,000, bottom one on the first page, directly north of his house and building, and then the one directly to the east.
Oh, that, I know which one you're talking about, Steve.
The,
Oh, this one.
Yes, this one.
I'm looking at those two, thinking I would like to include them in homestead residential.
So what's the difference between resident homestead and unimproved residential?
The biggest difference is classification rate that's applied. Unimproved has a class rate of 1.25 versus improved has just a 1% classification rate. So, other than that, it's just the definitions that are divided to make sure that, because ultimately, the majority of these classifications are made to drop something into a certain bucket when we report our data to the state. So.
how, do we have an estimation on the acres that was determined residential homestead last year, 2 years ago?
I guess I'm not following you on that one.
It was
So,
almost all of them.
They were.
Yeah.
They're all residential.
yeah, how many acres is that?
I don't think that it's each separate lot. I mean,
It's,
it's a,
it's lot and block, so
Yeah.
it's, a square footage right now, so,
Yeah.
I think Alan had mentioned it's about 9 acres total. I think that,
well, that was because we're talking production acres. I mean, there could be 11 acres there, but some of it's woodlot and not production, so.
What I mean is when I purchased it, I thought it was 11 acres, but that's so many years ago. I have to look from there.
I did measure out what was being tilled, and that came out to 3.14 acres actively tilled, but that included land that wasn't specifically on each lot. It was on some existing streets and things like that.
So the whole property that you have there connected is probably 11 acres, roughly.
That's what I remember.
Okay.
I bought that from Carl Peterson and Mr. Christensen.
Right.
Some of the, interestingly enough, when we redid the streets in Harmony, when Minna did them, then you guys were probably born in. I put in curb and gutter on the northeast part of Harmony. They drain all of the water, all the surface water into my sink. Which I guess works, but.
At that time.
Is that a sinkhole directly east of you?
By Stanley I.
Oh, down there, yeah.
Oh, yeah, in that
And
corner.
when the engineer designed it, so all of the water.
Right.
Well, the water goes in the sinkhole out in our neighborhood. The
Couple sinkholes get water.
rainwater goes in the sinkhole behind your twin homes.
That's true, yeah.
We have a few of those unique, we have a few of those unique spots, so.
But, the other thing is that if somebody just happens to have their house and then they own the lot next to their house too. Is that homesteaded because their house is homesteaded?
There's a lot of that in Miami. I don't
Yeah, I think they put them as non-homestead, don't you? Empty lots.
Well, it depends, if it's used in conjunction with the homestead, then that's something we look at to do. Okay. So there are situations where they are going to for homestead. and there are situations where they're not.
So that instance, there's one right next to me, they've got a house right in the middle of 3 lots. Kind of makes both of the 2 on the side somewhat unreasonable because they're not quite big enough to build a house. So you probably homestead that whole parcel.
Can't say without looking at it, but
Well, I feel strongly that the 372, bottom of the first page, that should be considered part of the homestead. I'm not sure about to the east, never drove back there on Second Street.
How, Alan, how far does your brick go down north?
Meaning stone.
Yeah, or, yeah, stone.
So we gave that up a few years ago. I would say it goes almost to the curb.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty accurate, I think.
Got a lot of stone left.
So I'm looking at keeping 377, 372, like you said, Steve, 373 and 374 all homestead because that all extends north towards the curve. That's what I'm thinking.
And including which ones?
Those two.
These two also.
Yeah. So the first four properties on our packet.
And this one here.
That's
These three.
yeah. That's good.
And that one.
Yeah, that's the first one. Yeah, right.
Yeah, these are these two. And then you're adding the two to the Gotcha.
Yeah, yeah, where that
Yeah.
wall goes down.
So that's everything south of it first. Correct.
Correct.
Except this one here, not including that. Correct.
Correct. That's, yeah. But where's the horse shed?
That's on the homestead.
Okay. So this is different scenario. Hags live just out on 44. They have a lot of lots sold that are currently tillable, right along where the hospital is, the clinic. How is that classified?
Residential unimproved.
So they're paying taxes, residential unimproved on those.
They're subdivided it as lot and lot, and that's the highest and best use, so that is how they're classified.
But we do have sewer out there, correct?
Yes.
Lines
All
out.
all the way down.
So that's the difference as well is that it's possible to put a house up there next year, and I don't know about this, if you can.
Right,
There's a
on
way.
these lots that do have that degraded, or have, limited utility, to them, there's an adjustment in there for that, and not on those properties, that you're speaking of.
Okay.
Yeah, and the Pegs only have a
Yeah,
couple
now when I
lots.
look at it, I
Pegs
just-
only have a couple lots there. that are-
They've sold a few, but that are still.
Yeah, well,
So,
if you look, this would be a residential, these two,
yeah,
I don't know what
I
that
think
one
that's
is.
native or used to be native.
That's, yeah, that's still theirs. And then they combine those, this is theirs too, which is, it was plotted.
Mhm.
And then there was, they took this one back, changed that.
Okay.
So that used to be a lot too, but they rezoned that or reclassified it, so it's all ag. So,
All right.
So now I'm thinking, I'm in favor of the three due north of his homestead and the one due west. So those four. I'm directly behind the homestead, the three north of it. In that fell shape.
22.
So basically the first page, front, back.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
I'd make that a motion. So we can get to some
I'll second
discussion.
it.
Have motion in a second, discussion. Others like it, not like it?
So it's basically just excluding any fields.
Well, and so I would, I guess, not saying I'm in favor of the other, but why wouldn't we do all of it residential homestead then? Just for discussion's sake.
Because it's not really contiguous to the, I mean, just because the.
It's all adjoining,
Others-
it's all adjoining. That's the
Right,
reason I ask
the
it.
others, you know, but it's, at some point it's got to end.
Well, and so that goes to my question. If Alan would go and combine all those parcels, that would make it residential homestead.
I'm not sure.
Would it?
Yes.
And there's no limit to that, to how many acres you can have as residential homestead?
And that would be a legal thing that he would have to go through an attorney and do, but that would be another option.
Not necessarily, there's a pretty
So-
simple combined form available at the office where the property owner just indicates which parcel they want to combine, signs it. So, no legal fees or anything like that, unless he wants to review it.
And then if you ever wanted to sell them as parcels again, you would have to go and have it separated.
Then he would have
Yes.
to have a deed filed to split that back up.
So those are a couple
That's,
different
that's
options.
why I'm thinking just these, because the others can be.
Well, he could do it with all of it.
Put my 2 cents in, because we're going through our comp plan.
You may,
May I? No, and on our map, just to make sure you guys don't forget, we do have, these streets going through with,
6th Street.
6th Avenue,
6th Street.
6th Street.
Oh, 6th Avenue is the one
Sixth Avenue
to
goes north and
the
south.
east, yes,
To the east.
yes.
That is, we do have that as a future development easement type for the city, just to, I'm not sure if, you know, all the lots were to be combined, would we still have that
You guys would
ability
still
to
have
still,
this street.
to the streets? It's not
Now,
like we're
why is
making
that
it
6th
bigger or
Street
anything.
not
You'd have
6th
to-
Avenue?
you'd have to actually
I
make
don't know.
a street for Alan to take possession of
So
Okay.
we would,
which-
yeah,
Which we wouldn't be doing, but,
we would have 6th Street, we'd have First Street, which is on here.
yeah, in center is
So does the city
Yes.
own that?
Yes,
I just wanted
even
to
though
make sure that,
Alan maintains it basically
Yeah.
as part of his property.
just, you know, just for discussion's sake, just remember that those are there for future development, so if they were combined, how would that look for the cities and future development? Not forget about that piece.
So regardless of what happens here tonight, Alan could go through that process to make everything homestead.
You could make it one parcel.
Yeah,
Yeah,
make it
one
one
parcel.
parcel. Yeah, no matter what we decide tonight, correct?
This is just for the year, right? I
Right.
mean, this is gonna happen again next year then?
it. No, I said that something
Wouldn't-
something incredibly minor like this is, you know, it's not something I'm going to bother looking back and forth.
So that's if we did, even if we did a portion of them or the whole thing, or,
It's,
That's why I think we do a portion, if Alan wants to combine them all, then he's kind of saying, you know, there's no intentions of ever selling or splitting that.
Correct.
We could, but, gotta be more difficult. But that's why I made the motion. The only one I'm kind of, you know, is Dewey's. is-
Mhm.
I just want to restate, I still do have a recommendation on the floor for, parcel 227. That is currently classified as unapproved, and it does have a building on it. I would need a motion from the council to approve any type of classification change on 227 from res unimproved to residential non-homestead.
And what would that change that $18,000 value?
It would do nothing to the value, it would change the classification of the, would in turn change the class rate from 1.25% to 1%, as that is the fitting class rate for an improved lot.
So even
We have
on
motion on
a,
the floor, so we'll take care of that
Yeah.
after this one.
we'll address that, yeah.
Any more discussion? We'll call for a vote. All in favor of the current motion to classify the four on the first page as homestead? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I make a motion to change the unimproved residential to non-homestead.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Anybody else have any business for us? Good. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I think you're doing a great job. Assessors. Appreciate the work and thought you put in the process.
The time and the explanation, especially for something like this too, is
Yes.
well appreciated.
Yes, thank you.
I tell my staff that, spend as much time educating as possible, because the smarter we can make everybody about this kind of stuff, the easier it is to digest it.
Correct.
Agreed.
All right, we're adjourned.
That's your two problem.
Yeah, thank you.